Gray 1v1 versus every brawler in Brawl Stars. How good is he going to be? Well, we're going to find out as we hop straight into the interactions, and I'll explain Gray's kit as we go along. Now, Gray is classified as a support brawler, so it's natural that we start him off right here against the other support brawlers. Now, as you can see, his damage is really respectable for a support brawler, dealing 1,740 damage per hit. Because of this, he has no issues taking down Poco. Now, you might have noticed that Poco's first shot did less damage than normal. That's because Gray's first star power reduces any damage by 25% when he is at full health. Now, this is the star power we're going to use for all of these tests. Gray doesn't have a lot of hit points, but it's not that bad at almost 5,000, and that's plenty enough to beat Byron. Now, Gene has a super that pulls people from across the field, and while he does beat Gray, although not by much, Gray mimics Gene just a little bit with his gadget. With Gray's gadget, he's able to pull brawlers just a few tiles. Now, that's not nearly as devastating as Gene's, but it can stop some supers like Frank, as well as interrupt some long shot animations like Pam. Now, in a real game, Gray will do decent against these brawlers. He does get outranged by Gus, and he gets outdamaged by Pam, but he has another trick up his sleeve, and it will pay dividends against our next group, the Assassins. Now, yes, in a standstill interaction, Assassins absolutely clobber Gray, except for Crow, because he has like 3 hit points. Now, Gray's reload speed is decent, but it's just not enough to stand up to Assassins like Edgar. Now, Daryl also completely destroys him up close, but here's the thing. Assassins have to get up close, and they do that with their super, and well, if supers are allowed, then Gray here actually has the upper hand. You see, his super allows him to teleport away, leaving portals on the ground for him and his teammates to move through. So when an assassin like Bonnie comes flying in,
have a great time.
Yeah. Without supers though, Bonnie, she wins. Likewise, Fang gives Gray a taste of the shoe, and Buzz, well, he whistles him down, because that's a thing. Now, in an actual game, this is still a rough matchup for Gray, unless he has a super and can react fast enough. And even then, that super's more for just escaping and hoping your teammates are there to help out, not so much for turning the tide on the assassin. Now, if you use your portal to escape in conjunction with your second star power, whenever you use that portal, it will heal you for 1,000 hit points, which is very useful for you and your teammate. However, his second gadget, that will come in handy versus the next brawlers. Now, Gray, he's a fragile little actor, and he doesn't have the brawn to stand up to the tanks, so in base level interactions, the tanks, like Bull, are going to beat pretty much anyone, especially Gray. Buster, even with his nerfs, demolishes Gray, and the other bruisers like Rosa have very little problem as well. El Primo's massive fists do work on Gray, but Gray has actually copied one of El Primo's tricks in the process. See, where El Primo has his asteroid that comes down from the sky, Gray has a piano. Yeah, that's right. With his second gadget, when it's pressed, wherever his shot lands, a huge piano will fall from the sky. This is going to be very useful in not only just area control in general, but getting tanks like Frank to step away from you. It deals a significant amount of damage as well. I mean, Frank, of course, easily wins this interaction, and Ash, even starting at 0 rage, does the same thing. BB does win as well, but she is only 1 shot away from dying, while Jackie, she had plenty of health after smacking down Gray. In a game scenario, tanks are going to be pretty tough. I mean, Gray does, however, have enough versatility to escape the tanks, as well as keep them at bay with his gadget. Of course, it's always better to keep your distance and try to keep these tanks from getting too close to you. However, the next set of brawlers, they don't want to get close to you at all. Gray has a decent range, but it's not as long as these brawlers. That's what she said. His damage is respectable as well, but once again, the sharpshooters will most likely outdamage him. That being said, he performs admirably for a support brawler here. Piper does take him down, but that's only because her shots travel much faster than Gray's do. Gray does have a slight edge on brawlers like B because his hit points are pretty high, allowing him to win. Well, except for brawlers like Nani, who just have overwhelming power. Colt also wins because his shots are, again, much faster than Gray's. And that is one of the big weaknesses of Gray. It's that his shots travel pretty slow. They are, however, pretty hard to see, so dodging them is also going to be tough. In a game, the long-range brawlers are going to be able to outrange Gray, so if you're that sniper, stay at max range and you should do just fine against him. Unless you're Piper and Gray has a super and you don't, because in that case, you're going to need to be very wary because he'll be able to use his super to get close to you, reducing your damage, and you pretty much can't win from there. Now, the throwers traditionally do very bad in these tests, but yeah, that's not going to change here. Despite Gray's deficiencies, he has more than enough firepower and health to take down every single thrower. Even Dynamite with his buff to his main shot isn't enough, although he does kill him after he's already gone. That being said, the throwers do better here than normal because of how slow Gray's shot is, except for Tick. Always last. Now, in a game, this is going to be a pretty tough one. Once Gray gets his super, you're going to have to be very careful as the thrower because Gray can teleport right up close to you and take you out. This is not a great matchup for the throwers. While Gray has a good matchup against the throwers, the spawners are a bit of a mixed bag. Nita is able to take him out as she has a good amount of health. However, Jessie isn't as fortunate and she comes up on the short end of the stick. The health stick. Penny does win, but they are pretty evenly matched and the shot speed is the deciding factor here. However, the double bounce of Mr. P and his suitcases proves to be too much for Gray to handle. Now, our last spawner, Eve, isn't able to take him out before Gray finishes her off. That being said, in a game, Gray might have some troubles once these spawners get their spawns down. His slow shot that does not pierce enemies will prove to be a hindrance when going up against the spawners. This is a pretty close matchup until the spawners get their friends on the map, and then it shifts in the direction of the spawners. While Gray may be able to control some parts of the map with his portal, these next brawlers are the actual control brawlers. In these matchups, Gray does pretty decently. Gale's nerfs to his control doesn't affect his damage, and you can see him putting in that work as he beats Gray. Bo is just as strong as a mountain, and a silent actor can't do much to move that mountain. Lou, however, is just a glorified ice cream cone, and while he does win, it's not by much. Now, Sandy may be a legendary brawler, but he has never been legendary about standing up to a good amount of damage. Now, Squeak is a really close match for Gray, and while he does lose, Gray would have been dead if the match wouldn't have ended. Now, these matches are really close, and in an actual game, it's going to come down to player skill. Gray could use his teleport to escape some things like Bo's mines or even teleport over a Gale Twister, but all in all, this is a very close matchup that will be decided by how good you and your opponent are. Now, these next brawlers really specialize in dishing out the damage. Starting this off with Shelly, who with the help of her band-aid makes quick work of Gray. Ems is able to keep Gray right in that perfect damage zone, and Griff has too much damage for almost any brawler to handle, and this doesn't change as he dominates Gray. Spike, however, just doesn't have the hit points, so at a normal distance, he loses. Barely, but he does. Colette does her normal Colette thing, where she dishes out the damage but can't finish the job without using her super. And Lola shows Gray how to get the starring role by killing your fellow actors. It's a great lesson to learn. Now, in-game, this might be a slightly skewed matchup. Gray will need to utilize his range and hit shots, which can be a little bit tough. If he's able to do that, then he'll fare all right, but I think that he might lose the war of attrition against most of these brawlers. And, of course, if you happen to stumble on a Shelly, well. Now, our final category are the mid-range brawlers. These are probably the most fair fights that we have seen yet. Max fires off shots too quick for Gray to handle and wins the match. However, the dog, he comes up just short. That's rough. It's really rough.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Sorry, I'll be here all week. Tara and her high damage up close win this match pretty easily. Stu, however, and his quick shots, they're just not enough to seal the deal as he falls to Gray. Now, Surge has one of the fastest unload speeds of any brawler, but the damage falls just 83 hit points short of finishing the job. Similarly, Janet doesn't pack enough punch to completely finish off Gray in time, and our last brawler is Otis, and with that second star power equipped, he decimates Gray's health bar. Okay, so you have seen Gray 1v1 versus every brawler. How good is Gray going to be? He has good range, good damage, but a slow shot speed and not a ton of health. I think hitting Gray's shots are going to be a little bit tough, but overall, I'd give him a solid 7 out of 10. Now, he isn't the best, but given his role as a support brawler, he has the means to escape some damage and provide some cool opportunities with his portals, and that should give him a nice home in Brawl Stars, and I'm really looking forward to playing him. Almost as much as I'm looking forward to playing our next sneak peek, so come back for Chester. Yeah, it's going to be good.